add some sort of threshold, benchmark, hurdle, filter to your process to get you closer to where you want to be.
What's up, Tyler? You want to talk about the fact that... I'm sorry, I'm talking with my hands over my mouth. That probably sounds very weird.
That we're helping people place dogs now?
Where are we? Spoiler alert. I got a surprise dog this weekend.
The old
Wait, did I tell you his name?
Oldest trick in the book. Yeah, Puck.
Oh, yeah, Puck. Yeah. My kid's obviously named him that. And big hockey dad now.
We've been watching Mighty Ducks.
Oh,
the series.
Did we watch? I can't remember if we ended up watching Mighty Ducks or not. We need to.
We've been watching it.
We're going to talk about leads and why I know you guys are getting leads and you're getting a ton of unqualified leads and you can't figure out why. And instead of being able to grow your business into the market that you want, you're struggling to basically, fill your pipeline with projects that aren't your ideal client, your ideal project, but it's what's coming into your lead intake, whether that's phone calls or emails or a website form. We're going to talk about that specifically and how you can fix that and really move your business to be in the market and take on the projects that you are excited about. So.
Yeah, it's a fun episode. Talk about a lot of the mistakes that we've made, issues that we've created ourselves, and things that we're doing differently now. And then at the end, just some advice as to what you can do to start making some changes and get closer to where you want to be for business and life and everything else. So, fun episode.
This podcast is brought to you by Andersen Windows. Dude, so Andersen, we're doing my house right now.
Yeah.
And I worked with them. I ended up doing triple pane double hung windows.
Yes.
I think you guys can imagine what the specs are and the performance rating. Those things are heavy.
Are they?
Heavy.
Don't tell me that.
Heavy.
Dude, I'm getting a truckload of windows delivered on Friday.
Okay, get a friend. Because I got a phone call saying, hey, it's Andersen Windows. We have all your windows. Are you coming to unload them? And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot you were coming. I think it was also a Friday, actually. Happened to be raining this day. And the gentleman was like, I'll help you, but you're you got to carry them into the house.
Oh.
Yeah. So heavy window. So nice. We have probably, 9 of them installed so far. We're starting with the front of the building. They just operate nice. They're heavy. They feel substantial, super quiet. And obviously,
now you have me nervous.
Well, they're not.
I have some 8-foot doors coming in.
Oh no, you're not going to be able to move that by yourself.
No, I have. Yeah, and I have help coming.
Yeah,
but
no, you're fine. They're heavy. I'm not sorry to make you nervous.
Heavy is a good thing.
They are
just not moving them.
No. But all that to be said, we've been installing them. They just look awesome. And I told Andersen I'm going to film a video on how to basically demo, prep, and install these into brick openings because we just, you don't have a lot of options when you get into these old brick row houses and improving the performance. And Windows is a big thing, and oftentimes they're architecturally protected. So you have to use a double hung. You can't be using a European style window or something like that. So these Andersens are a great option and keep the traditional double hung approach. So excited to partner with them on that, but also to do some content and share it with you guys.
Sweet. Well, then I'll wrap up my ideas next week once I unload them on Friday.
Hey guys, it's Tyler, and I am sore as fuck.
They are confirmed. They are heavy.
This podcast is also brought to you by Harnish Workwear. Guys, it's been freezing. I'm looking at the temperature right now. It's 12 degrees in Boston, and I think we're getting back down to, Sunday will be 1 degree. I have been basically sleeping in my Crater One pants and Pioneer hooded sweatshirt to keep me warm outside.
Dude, I'm over it.
The
I'm
cold or the
absolutely,
pants?
yeah,
Yeah.
the cold. But I have been wearing I wear them pretty much every day now.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much. To be honest, like I have a couple of jeans. I've been using them for everything, and honestly, no BS. Yes, they're warm. Yes, they're comfortable. They work well for me. I wear mine with the belt. I don't know if you do or not. There are belt loops. I wear
I
mine
do,
with the
yeah.
belt. But I was out cutting down a tree this past weekend, and I had on like actual protective pants on top of them, chaps on top of them. But then I was sharpening my chainsaw afterwards, a couple of different chains, and like running them across the pants and not being neat or careful with them, and like don't rip the pants at all. And I feel like my jeans would have been fully torn up because I was like holding it with my leg and then trying not to get it spin and struggling through it. And I was like, these things didn't tear at all. So very durable. I'm impressed. I continued to be impressed. And I wasn't a true believer at first. And I'm like definitely convinced at this point. Comfortable and durable. So.
And guys, if you are unsure about the pants, just want to get involved or start a relationship with these guys, Harnish specifically, check out their H label program. It's what t-shirt I'm wearing. It's how we're doing, what we wear for all the Modern Craftsman t-shirts. Just a really well fitted t-shirt, and yeah, it's a great way to get introduced to the brand, and eventually you'll get the hooded sweatshirt, and eventually you'll get the pants. But it's a good entry point.
All right, so the past few weeks we have been talking about money, ballpark figures, how to handle those budget conversations, which can be sometimes awkward. So we're going to be shifting gears for the next 4 or so weeks and dig into some lead gen, quality of leads, filtering leads, because that full inbox, that pack schedule don't necessarily mean that you're doing things right. And I can attest to this firsthand, right? I worked for years around the clock. I was booked out for 18, 24 months, more work than I could handle, but I was never really where I wanted to be, and I wasn't never making what I thought that I should be making. So I had the steady flow of leads, but unfortunately my funnel was not the filter. It was not distilling my leads down to ideal leads. It was a straight tube allowing anyone and everyone to get through. So today I want to take some time to break down why more leads won't fix your systems. I think that more leads are a part of it. You need more leads in order to find the right leads, but you also need the filters in place to be protecting your time, and why understanding that and then being able to say no to the wrong work can be one of the most profitable decisions that you can make as a builder or remodeling contractor.
Yeah, I mean, any business owner really. It's what I know we've talked about it, but it's literally what I am trying to build in my business, and do it in a way where it reduces the human aspect of it. And I'm gonna, I want to expand on that, because I had this realization last night that there's so many opportunities. Like AI is a great example. There's so many opportunities to automate things and create just like workflow stuff that's happening while you're not actually like doing anything to it. And lead filtering was a huge one on kind of my whiteboard of like, hey, automate this. And we kept going around and around and trying to get to a point where we felt as though it was doing enough to be worth it. And we've realized, like, at the end of the day, we're not dealing with that many inbound leads. It's not like we're selling a commodity where it's like every day we're just getting something that needs to be qualified. And even if we got one lead a day, you're talking, a minimum amount of work to qualify them or not. However, whether it's automated or done manually, that process in qualifying them has to be like structured. Yeah. And even for me internally, we have I have Rachel who works in my office. You know her because you tested you
Yeah.
tested my lead flow one day and she called you. But she's got a script and basically a series of questions that she will ask to ultimately qualify whether or not someone is, qualified to work with us or not. But there's still there's still the human aspect of it. We got one yesterday that is very much not a lead for us. They want to build a new house. Their cost per square foot budget is half of what our average is. And she still, she'll reach out to me like, hey, just confirming like this is not a qualified lead, right? Because she knows that I look at it as like, ooh, it's a project. Like,
Maybe.
let's make it work. And I haven't responded to her, and I'm like, I hope she just says, I'm not going to chase this one.
Well, there's two like we started this podcast, or I started this podcast, and discussing how a surplus of leads could be your issue. You need the surplus of leads. You need the volume of leads, but it's what happens after that, right? So like, I think a lot of times in business, for me, I would blame the leads. I wasn't getting the right leads, or I was taking the wrong lead, when in actuality, like it wasn't, the leads were coming through. I needed to generate more to get better leads. Like, even though I felt that it was a sufficient amount of leads, if you are not getting the leads you want, it's not enough. So you have to find a way to increase the volume of leads so that you can then distill that down to the ones that make the most amount of sense for your company.
I think if you're going, like, if you crank the volume up, that's why finding ways to automate the filtering process is that much more important.
So do you think that a lot of times we blame those bad leads on our volume of leads or our lead generation or our marketing, rather than us having a better idea of who we want to work with?
Yeah, I think that, great, like the example I just made, where it's like that particular project doesn't fit our criteria. And instead of me sticking to the fact that, hey, we've defined who our ideal client is, previously I would try to force that client or that project into our, into that demographic. I mean, there's very recent clients that don't fit our ideal client type, and we sit down and eat. I mean, so much so where we've had a conversation internally like, hey, do we think this is a good fit? And usually it's not so much like, hey, there's red flags. I feel like everyone dances around the fact that it's like, oh, this is kind of an orange flag. And I'm like, man, like, I feel like you want to say red flag because, like, it is. And it turns out, hey, great project. It's good. Like, we get to promote it. Like, it's, it's work, it's revenue, we're profitable, blah, blah, blah. But the client's just not our cup of tea.
No, and if you had a higher volume of leads coming in, that would be a red flag type of job.
Exactly. And that's where, the unfortunate part of, as people say, feeding the machine, right? If you don't have enough volume coming in, you basically gobble up anything that seems enticing. I mean, Meg said this to me the other day. Actually, we were talking about a project, and she was asking about the client. Like, she had known the client, and I was just like, it's such a pain in the ass. And she asked what was going on, and I explained it to her, and she goes, I feel like you knew this going into it. And I looked at her, I was like, well, yeah. And I'm like, I don't really want to be told that I ignored my intuition right now because I'm just frustrated. But she's like, you got to just trust your gut. And I said to her, I was like, I'm with you. It's not that I don't want to trust my gut. It's at the time of the situation, I very likely took on that project because I needed to.
Yeah.
And few people in your business are going to understand that.
You have to make sure that you're not positioning yourself in business to be making fear-based decisions, regardless of what that is. Whether it's your
Right.
lead generation, it's the where you stand financially. I think that when you become fearful, when you become less secure in business and in life, you start to make compromises, and you're not able to leverage certain aspects of your business. So I think that, like, if you give yourself an opportunity to have more leads come in, better leads come in, if you position yourself to be sustainable and profitable as a business, then you're going to continue to make better decisions with your business. It's not until the one job falls through that you're like, oh, we need to fill something in here. Or it's not until, like, my phone hasn't rang for 6 weeks that you're like, well, maybe we'll entertain this lead. So you have to stay in front of it, and you have to make sure, like, yeah, it does happen, but you have to make sure that you're not compromising based on your own systems or lack thereof.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think when there is that uncertainty, you're blinded by it, right? You're blind, like you're making decisions, again, to your point, fear based, where
You're forced to.
yeah, you're forced to. And it's such an interesting thing because, when I talk to other builders or what their goals are, it's always like, I want to build a strong pipeline. I want to have 2+ years of work. And when I talk to the guys that, the super established, almost corporation style builders, they're like, oh yeah, we have 36, 48 months of pipeline. And I'm like, that sounds like a dream, because you have the time to allow you to really work through the early process of making sure that this is in fact the right fit for you. And for most guys, like myself included, it's like when things feel scarce, you go into this mindset of like, I need to fill a slot, not I need to chase down my ideal clients. Like, I need to fill a slot. It feels necessary in order to keep the business going. Where I was going with that is, but then all of a sudden you get an email or a phone call. I got a text yesterday from an architect we've been wanting to work with that, is literally like our ideal project. And he's like, hey, this is early development, and he's like, it could be as soon as, this year. I'm like, great. I mean, that not only fills our slot, but it's also an ideal type of project for us.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was coming. It wasn't like, I was chasing that particular lead and moving it down the funnel. It just showed up like in the middle of a day. And when we zoom out and realize realize how a lot of these projects end up on our plate, that's how oftentimes it happens.
Yeah. The thing I find it interesting, and I want to go back quickly to what you said, where it's like these builders have 36, 48 months worth of work in their pipeline, and that you said, right, that's going to give me the time to understand these projects better, ensure that they're a good fit. I think that that's part of it, but I also think that just from like a mental standpoint, understanding that you're not in a position of desperation just changes things. Because when you have that much work lined up, you think that you can let off the gas, but you can't let off the gas. You have to continue marketing. You have to continue doing what you're doing. You have to refine, adapt, continue to get better, because 3 years from now, you don't know really where things are going to stand. But like, just that peace of mind that you're going to be okay with your business. Like, for me, it's not 36 to 48 months, right? It's a few months, as long as I'm busy and I have money coming in that I understand. I don't have a big company, but as it it requires a lower volume of pipeline work for me to feel good. I actually, once I get to 18 months, it's like neither here nor there. It's all irrelevant, because I can't handle what's on my plate regardless, other than a couple months out. So like, even though it makes you feel comfortable having that pipeline of work, you have to make sure that you're not fully comfortable. Like, continue doing what you're doing, continue marketing, continue building the business. You can't just say, I have 48 months worth of work lined up, I'm going to take my foot off the gas.
Great advice, because I think when I feel like I could make a lot of examples here or references, but the only reason you have all that work lined up is because you kept your foot on the gas.
Yeah.
And like that worked. It's like social media, right? Like when you find content that hits, it's like then you do it again because it works, and you keep doing it again. The best creators in the world just keep doing it over and over and over. Where it's, you post one thing, it's crazy, and then you change the format or you do something else, it doesn't do as well. It's like, what happened? I thought everyone liked me. It's like, no, they liked what you just did. It's the same thing in business. It's like if you're doing something and it's working, why would you stop doing it?
Correct.
And and to your point, the reason we stop doing it is because we become comfortable and realize, oh, I can coast for a little bit. It's like, I talked to you offline about, I just need to sell this project, or I just need to get this project done, and then I can breathe a little bit and spend a little bit more time on some extracurricular stuff. No, I can't. I say that, and I think that, but the reality is like, no, I'm building, like the train is still on the tracks here. Like I gotta keep moving forward. I'm not interested in slowing down or coasting for a bit. I am in
it's
the
just
micro
nice
moment.
to not have it's funny because, and it's a cart or a horse, but like you have to have that pressure in order to drive you, but the pressure also is what you're looking to alleviate, right? Where it's like, are things really going to change once it sells? Probably not, but just not having that pressure on your shoulders all the time is what you're looking to get rid of. But at the same time, that pressure is what's driving you right now. So to me, it comes down to having a balance. But again, it's also just having the right process in place, having the right systems in place, even as far as like lead gen and filtering leads and ensuring that your clients are the right fit. Like I have a client right now that I've worked with before, but my processes have changed since I worked with them last. So like they've obviously gotten through the preliminary filters. I understand that they're a client that's aligned with systems, but my systems have changed. Like my hurdles to get them through have changed. So I'm still walking them through that entire preliminary process as if they're a new client, because it's been 3 years since we've worked together. So like, yeah, they're through the initial filter stage, but then now I'm giving them each hurdle where it's like, it's the timeline hurdle, it's the budget hurdle, and now it's the pre-construction hurdle, which like when I did this before for them, it was credited to the job. So like it's getting them through each one of them. And I think just being confident in myself, being confident in my business, having like some financial security that I'm not willing to bend or budge, which is nice now, because when I first started working for this client, I wasn't in the same position, and it was like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Like I'll credit it toward the job. I'll do it for a bare minimum. I'll over deliver. I'll over execute. And I'm just at the point where I'm not doing that now, but that's what they're used to. So now I need to requalify an existing client, which has just given me a little bit of clarity as to what my process looks like, because my guards let down a little bit, right? It's not a blind client. It's not a client who knows nothing about me. It's a client who's worked together who I feel that I have a little bit more leverage with, but understanding what each filter, what each hurdle actually looks like to make sure they can keep moving down in the job. And this has been like, I'll give them what I feel is a pretty steep hurdle, and it'll be a couple weeks to get a decision back on that. So it's in a prior life, I would be responding with emails like, hey, maybe we can do this if it's not working out. Hey, how about this? Or I just had this idea. Or hey, just want to check in. And now I'm like, no, I'm going to put this out here. These are my requirements, and I'm going to wait to hear back. and they continue to move through that funnel, but I'm not like at the point where I have a signed pre-con agreement at this point.
I just sent an email to all the Modern Craftsman or the Modern Craftsman newsletter about the power of just shutting up for a minute. And rather than trying to over-explain, going back to the conversation we had in the last episode about money, it's like, stop trying to over-explain your cost or your price. Like you're killing the deal. Where it's like, now it's when I'm talking to a client and we're trying to resolve something. I mean, had a phone call with a client that wanted to obviously negotiate the cost of something. Like it was, wasn't a very direct client. Like wasn't going to ask. Basically, like was going to see if they could leverage me into talking into it myself. And the conversation was like quite literally like an awkward 5-7 second pause, because I think he thought I would just keep explaining my cost or offer solutions to his problem.
Yeah.
And it's like, it sounds like we're kind of still stuck. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I don't, I feel good about my side. I'm like, I don't know what more we can do here. I mean, this is unfortunately the cost of what you're asking for. It's not, I'm in business. Like you own a business. Like I own at the end of the day, I can't operate on nothing. And long story short, like we end up working that out, but that is, I think, to our own detriment that, you just got to shut up for a second and let the client understand that, hey, this is what it is, and giving them those hurdles to kind of work through it and get to the solution that is respectful of what your offer is.
Yeah, I've been speaking with Rachel lately, just like career, where I stand, where she stands, and she's like more of a late bloomer, where I feel like she's hitting her stride in her career at this point, and I put in 15 years. Not that she hasn't worked that hard, but like she's at the point where she's like driving, and she's developing that confidence in herself and in what she does, with her job, with her vendors, with companies who reach out to her. And it's funny because she's still developing that confidence, where before she was just, she felt that she was a piece of the puzzle, but I didn't feel as though she felt like she was like an integral piece in that puzzle, right? She was replaceable. And she's at the point now where she's starting to understand her worth. And it's interesting to see just how the thought process changes. And still at this point, how she's developing confidence and how she does things different than I would do things. And a lot of it comes down to me just being more direct, truly speaking how I feel, or saying nothing, right? Where it's like the big difference right now is like in that situation, I would either explain my disappointment or not say anything and just wait. And she's still in the explaining portion of like things. And I think it just comes down to, like, for 15 years, I feel that I've been beaten up, taken advantage of, tried to learn the hard way. And I'm at the point now where I'm just like, no, I won't do it anymore. And it's interesting when you can set things up to allow yourself to not have to say anything, or not have to change your idea, or not have to offer something more, where you're just like, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And there's so much power in that, where even on like the customer end, where it's like, listen, if this isn't good for you, that's fine. I have other people I can go work for. But if you want this time slot, then like this is how it's going to happen. And positioning yourself like that is very interesting, the dynamic that it can create with those clients, and then signing that job and moving forward with that job.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, everyone says know your numbers. No, it's until you actually understand what that means and can confidently be in a position where it's like, all right, if this client decides to bail on me, what does that do for my business?
Yeah.
And, and then having kind of like, what is my plan B? And we consider that in projects. We've had projects that have canceled before construction. We've had projects cancel in the midst of construction for all different reasons. And we always want to make sure that we understand what are the repercussions and what does that do to the business. And for us, like, we basically have like our revenue target per month, and we look at that and know, okay, we're hitting it or we're exceeding it or we're under. And if we're under, why? Is it just a timing issue and we make up for it on the next month, or are we in a position where we're losing cash every month? And if that's the case, we're in a worse negotiation position where it's, if someone does cancel, like, we're double screwed. And how do we survive that?
I think one other aspect of my business and what I do now that I think I didn't truly understand until I was able to get myself to a point where the business is financially secure is just the value of my time and what that looks like, and that I don't want to just create busy work, right? I don't want to take a job just to be busy to say that I have work. I would at this point rather not work for somebody where I'm not making my rate and reinvest in myself, in my business, in the podcast, than just go to work for somebody. And I began to realize that I can't give anything away for free. I can't give anything away for free, from the lead gen to the filtering to the intake to pre-construction, post-construction, right? I gave away so much free time for so long that it's really difficult for me at this point to say, oh, you know what? I'll just do that thing while I'm here. Or, yeah, I'll just come meet with you. I could be doing something else, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm going to go devote 3 hours to somebody and it's just free, would they do it for me? Would you do that if I was just like, hey, I just need 3 hours worth of advice? Probably not. So as I started better understanding that, like, I need to be getting paid for everything that I'm doing, whether I have that job or not, it needs to be built into my business cost. Whether that is job specific or whether that's built into an overhead, it really changed my thinking and gave me a better understanding of the value of my time, which I can dig my heels in at this point and just be far more confident telling people no. Because it's like, at the end of the day, I would rather work for myself for free than people for free, right? Like, if I'm going to work for free, why not be investing in myself, my family, the podcast, whatever it is, than just some random stranger who gets a hold of me who wants to understand, like, the cost of a potential project for themselves.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. I've known you for long enough that I feel I've seen you do a lot of free work over the years, whether it be financially or from a time commitment. But in the past, whatever 12 years you've been in business, however long it's been, is there something that sticks out as far as you? Obviously, you have a unique project going on right now that has a lot of sunk costs, but, like, for customer-based work, do you feel that there's a job that's stuck out in your head where it's like, yeah, I really gave a lot away on that one?
Yeah, there's one I always think about, which is weird because it wasn't a very big job, but I do remember specifically going into it saying that I was going to spend every dollar of profit on that job to make it cooler just so I could market it.
Yeah.
And it was this garden level condo in the South End, and younger client followed me on social media. One of our first meetings was basically like, I love what you do on social media and I can't wait to see my house renovated on Instagram. Like, that was like the prerequisite. And but the budget was tight, and I remember meeting with my team there, and I was like, we're just going to spend all the money and make this as cool as possible. So
what was the structure, of your team at this point?
It was me and like 2 or 3 carpenters.
Okay.
That was it. And I remember having conversations with the client, and it was like, here's the price. Oh, that's too much. All right, we'll do it for this much. Okay, that works. And you buy this, I buy that, you buy this. Okay. And then it's like, hey, we ran into this issue. Well, I don't have any more money. Okay, don't worry, we'll do it. It's like, hey, I think this would look cooler. Is it more expensive? Yeah, don't do it. All right, I'm just going to do it. And at the end of the day, like it was all worth it. There was a lot of opportunity that came from that project, and frankly, we met a lot of great people, and she was a great reference for us. And I don't look back and being like I regret that by any means, but there was certainly one that I just know I gave more than I charged. I mean,
do you feel the client was appreciative?
She was, yeah.
That makes a huge difference.
Totally, because there was another one that was not as appreciative, and I actually found the proposal I wrote for that job, and just for like frame of reference, it was, I mean, in today's dollars, it would be like a $2.5 million renovation, and my contract was $175,000, which is, I mean, like ludicrous. But the client on that particular job was basically buying everything. Yeah. And I was hired as labor, and I was there, I was hiring subs. I was bringing trades in. I was basically bags on, PM, super, carpenter, working 16-hour days there. And, you do the math. I probably made $5 an hour, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I made that.
Do you think that like a different funnel or understanding what you needed as far as leads go would have made a difference in these projects?
Yeah. Back then it was just like, who will hire me? Correct. That's all it was. Is like, I want to do this. Here's something I've been thinking about. So going back to that, you start a business, you need work. So you literally just gobble up everything you can, and you start building a portfolio around projects that you get. And what's difficult is if you don't want to be doing those type of projects, you don't have anything to market for.
Yeah.
And when, Julian and I will sit down and we'll chat about like the type of projects that we want to do, and, and our ideal market, the conversation always seems to center around the fact that we don't think that our market supports those, and we only see like New York, the Hamptons, like these other markets really supporting what we want to build. But when I zoom out, I don't think that's really the case. We're getting the Instagram fluff of like, oh, they get to build, all the cool stuff. Like there's a builder that is local actually, and it was like, dude, they always get all the cool stuff. And then I found out that they have 180 people on staff, and I'm like, oh, wait a second,
yeah.
Like I'm only seeing 1 or 2 projects that they're building. Like they don't have 180. Like, most of the stuff they're doing isn't this. All that to be said is, when you're in that position, or when I'm in that position of I need to take on work to survive and build my business, and I'll slowly get to the point of building only the type of projects I want. The reality is my effort and my attention is spread across too many things. One being the type of projects that I know I can go and attack and bring in as revenue generating projects, and then the ideal type of projects that we really want to be building. If I only focused on the stuff I wanted to be building and just ignored everything else, I would get there faster.
I think that's what's really important, in that you don't understand So a lot of people who reach out or send emails are just starting their business, or they're a couple years in the business. And I think that what happens is you go off on your own. You want to be doing work that's different than where you're coming from, or you need to make more money, or whatever that is. And a lot of what is actually driving your need or your willingness or your desire to do certain projects are ego and vanity metrics. And like, I know that I went through a point where it's like, these are the type of jobs that I'm getting. I was working as a sub for a plumber who was doing jobs that were like as bad as they could get, as baseline. Like, I was the person coming in, he was subbing everything out to me, and I was fixing everything. And I just didn't want to be doing that. I wanted to be doing nicer work. I wanted to be using better materials. When in actuality, like, those projects, when I looked at it, were more profitable for me than when I started transitioning to mid-level renovations, higher-end renovations. But they were just driven by my ego, my self-wanting to be doing those projects, and there was no actual like transactional financial metrics backing them. So understanding that early on is going to help you understand what your filter needs to look like. It can't just be driven like, yeah, you have to appease and fulfill your needs as a person, but you're also, like you said, you're in business to make money. You have to understand which jobs make you money, and they need to be an integral part of your business.
The one pushback I'm going to give you there is that we look at this too. We took on some smaller projects this past year, and when you look at the percentage margin on those jobs, we're substantially more profitable on them.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, we're way like, why don't we just do this? It's like, all right, let's remove the percentage from the equation just for a second. From a cash value perspective, we're not making enough cash.
Yeah.
Like percentage, yeah, sure, the margin percentage looks amazing, but we're not making enough cash to support the business.
Just because the number's not as big.
Right, because the number's not as big. Where it's like, sure, you're doing a bigger job and your margin is smaller, but you're making more cash. And I think when like you have to understand both of it, because at the end of the day, it's like your overhead isn't 10%, your overhead is $100,000.
Yeah.
And that happens to be 10% of $1 million. It's not just always 10%. And I think that when you consider going into or measuring this stuff, you have to consider both sides of that. The other thing I will say is going back to confidence, and what I was saying a minute ago is there's confidence where I can go after the projects that we've done a lot of, where it's like it's harder to go into a project super confident when we've never done that before. It's a large reason why why we built White Oak. It's like we needed to break this kind of like invisible ceiling of $10 million plus and show that we can build a project like that. It's like, here's our $10 million plus project. We also did it on spec, and here's the level of quality of work behind it. It's like, so the proof's in the pudding there. It's ultimately, the confidence came from doing it.
Yeah. And that's important because I think early on, yeah, you want what you want, and you want to bust through that ceiling, and you want to be doing what you see everyone doing online and in magazines and on TV and everything else. But realistically, you're just not set up for that at that point. So like, you're looking at that, hey, it's just not as big of a number as a seasoned contractor who's been doing this and understands the cost of running a business. When you're looking to break into that, you don't have the systems in place, and you don't really understand that a lot of times those jobs can cost you so much money because you're just not there yet. Like, you're not structured to be doing that type of stuff. So you have to be careful as you move forward and understand, like, wherever you are in business at this point, yeah, it's going to be different 5 years down the road. It's going to be different 10 years down the road, but understand what those numbers look like at that point to be creating the filters and the hurdles that you need that makes your business profitable. Like for me, for a long time, I chased what I wanted to be doing. And at the end of the day, the resources that it required for me and the way that I was structured at that point, there was no return on that investment for me other than marketing, right? From a financial capacity, I was funding renovations for clients that weren't paying for it. The numbers seemed big enough, but I was investing way too much time in them. And it wasn't until I became more experienced, I basically pushed my ego aside to a certain point and understood what aspects of certain jobs make me money and what type of jobs really financially provide me with what I need. And it's not always the nicest project, right? Like those jobs, the numbers may be bigger, but there's also bigger headaches, there's bigger risk, there's bigger liability, there's more people, there's more of doing things the first time that you have to be careful of.
I think that it also depends on how you scale that too, where it's like the ideal type of projects could be the most profitable. And here's a thought I had, and I want to preface it.
That would be a best case scenario.
Totally. But I want to preface this with, I'm not looking to blow up my team or structure as it is today. But the reality is, if I only wanted to do, the 45 white oak type projects, I could very well just do one project like 45 white oak, use that, and then sell the next one and do one at a time and lean my team way down. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me running one project. I have no business, no overhead. Like it's just like I'm building a house, and do that and incrementally get there, and then start building the team to support doing that. I'm doing it the other way, which there's pain going into it on that side, because what happens is you start outpacing your systems. And then you're building stuff and you don't have any real systems. So the process kind of falls apart, even though you're building really cool shit. And I think a lot of people do that. It's like they just go after the really big stuff, have no process, and then hope their process catches up.
Yeah.
We're basically doing it the complete opposite way, where it's like we're building all the processes and the structure and the team to do the really high end stuff and plugging that into, like the upper mid-level. And so our process is dialed, like our software stack is dialed, the way we manage a project is dialed. And it's to a point where some may say it's unnecessary for the type of projects that we've done. But, that's fine. Like we did a sub $1 million renovation last year. Client raved about us. Client was super happy with the outcome, and it will be our biggest referral. And we ran it just like a $10 million job. And could you have done that job without the way we managed it? Of course you could have. Do you need, software to run that job like we ran it with? Absolutely not. But we did. And the reason is because we're building that stack and that process. So when we do get to the level that we want and consistently doing it, we're prepped and ready for it, rather than getting there and falling flat on our face and then losing that momentum.
Yeah. So for our listeners, for the people who are following along, like advice as far as what their funnel should look like, what their intake should look like, how they can begin to start implementing just strategy into what they're doing, rather than like, we'll take what we can get. Like what areas can they focus on in your opinion? Yeah, it's going to be like, for me, you have to understand who your ideal client is, what your ideal job looks like, to begin to market yourself.
But I think that's the most important thing, and this is advice for any industry, anything that you do. Social is a big part of what we do, and it's the same conversation. We're having the same exact conversation in our meetings regarding social and content as we are regarding lead flow and ideal client. Is that all right? Who's the content for? And and quite literally sat down and had this. I mean, at this point, I've probably had 20 hours of meetings about who our content is for. And
it's just crazy because like, and I want to try and like say this in a way that makes sense because it just ends up just spinning and spinning and spinning. But like, you're looking to create content for a specific client that's suiting your needs, not just that client, which is really weird, right? Like, at the end of the day, what you're trying to pitch to these clients really is for you and not necessarily for the
But
client.
how do you frame it as their benefit, not yours?
Correct.
Right.
And also, how do you get there, right? Because it seems that it's like, well, am I doing this for me? Am I doing this for the client? It needs to be what works for you, and then it needs to be translated to how is the client going to like digest this.
So I'm going to share exactly how we went through this whole content conversation because it relates back to ultimately selling work and finding our ideal client. We went through this whole audit, and it's interesting. We actually did this audit for website traffic. We did this audit for YouTube and Instagram and ultimately LinkedIn and other channels. But we eventually boiled it down to we have 3 demographics. Now there's like sub tiers, but like the main demographics are Builder Brian, Design Driven Dana, who's like the homeowner, the affluent homeowner, and Architect Alex. And Alex is like, architect, design, like that, like that's who they are. So looking at our content, that's the 3 buckets of people. When we looked deeper into our content, you know who the number 1 person watching our content is? Builder Brian.
Yeah.
It's me talking to other builders, like by far.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, and go back 5 years ago, someone would ask me, what's your goal with creating content? I said, I want to build really great content that inspires homeowners, but is respected by builders. It's like, well, okay, like you can do that, but you're putting a lot of weight on the respect of builders. It's not that I don't want to be respected as a builder, but I started creating content where if I tell everyone how I do it, everyone will respect me and really believe in what I'm doing. But I was ignoring how it relates to the homeowner. The homeowner's like,
yeah. So you're basically what you're pitching to at that point, I feel, would be a business that's marketing themselves towards sponsors and vendors and partnerships rather than clients.
Yeah. So naturally, all of a sudden I have all these vendors and sponsors and like people that want to do content and create content. It's like, this is great. This is great. Wait a second. Why aren't we getting the client we want? And so we sat down. It's like, our content's not catered to them. The messaging is wrong. And you can, it's not even like the visual or the video, like just change the messaging. Like, why does this matter to the homeowner? Sure, cool. You have the top of the line ERV system and it's installed with this kind of ductwork and this is how you seal it up. And this is, okay. Well, as a client, why do I give a shit?
Yeah.
And so reframing that back to your point, like, there's benefits of doing this stuff, but you got to understand why it's a benefit for the homeowner.
Correct. It's like, as a homeowner, I don't really care what Nick did to get this installed as much as how this is going to make my life better and why I would invest money in it. How
Ultimately,
it's going to protect me and my family.
What we got down to was a client needs to watch our content and be like, I don't really understand what they're doing, but they obviously know what the hell they're doing, like from a technical side. And then beyond that, it's all right. What does their ethos align with what I'm trying to achieve? If I value high performance or a healthy living environment or architecturally significant project, like whatever it is, like those are the things that we need to pay attention to. Same thing with architecture. Like we basically rewrote our program where it's like we have to talk to Dana and Alex. And Alex gives a shit about his details actually being done correctly. Because the amount of times he draws a detail and then he gets on site and the builder, screwed it up or did it a different way and they just compromise and be like, you know what, it is what it is. I want to show the fact that, hey, this was what was drawn and this is how we executed it. And we executed it exactly the way it was drawn because that was the intent. These are the ways that we lean into it. So relating this back to ideal client, it's the same thing. If you want to be building, $1 million kitchens, then you gotta you got to tap into that and talk
Yeah.
about $1 million kitchens from a marketing perspective.
With regard to your client.
Yeah. What is the
Like,
client like? Why is the client spending $1 million? It's like, oh, well, anyone that's spending $1 million on a kitchen, is whatever demographic. Like, this is, it seems like everyone that does $1 million kitchens does it for this reason or that reason, or they are this profession or that. Like, you got to figure out who that client is that is doing those type of projects, and then find a way to interact with them. Whether that's top of funnel marketing and sharing, like, hey, we just completed this $1 million, this $1 million kitchen. Here's the 5 details in it that make it stand out. What, like, I'm getting tactical here, but that is the point. And if you're not communicating to that client, you're completely roadblocking the opportunity for yourself.
yeah, so the advice for myself, or for like any listener, as far as getting to where you want to be, whether it's from an intake perspective, a lead gen perspective, a marketing perspective, would be for the next 4 weeks to add some sort of threshold, benchmark, hurdle, filter to your process to get you closer to where you want to be. Whether it's from a marketing perspective or it's on your intake form, whatever that needs to be, however you see fit, it would be to implement one sort of hurdle. And like, if I look back on my career and what I've done, it could be something super simple. Like 10 years ago, wanting to be using Kuchen Brothers moldings on my job and feeling as though clients wouldn't be willing to pay for them. And I can remember having a conversation with you where you're like, just have that be your benchmark, just have that be your standard. And I was so afraid to do that because I was so afraid that clients would say no to it. And it was as easy as telling myself that we're not going to offer anything other than that product on our jobs, obviously, unless we were matching an existing trim profile. But as soon as I did that, I created accountability for myself. And yeah, clients did say no to that. Some clients didn't want to spend the extra money on that, but it got me so much closer to where I wanted to be and to be doing the things that I wanted to be doing and to be getting the clients that I needed. So it doesn't need to be some massive threshold, right? We think of it as like, hey, we need to create a filter that's going to get people, right, our ideal job size from $250,000 to $750,000. It doesn't need to be that big. It could be something as simple as, hey, this is the type of system, this is the type of trim I want to use on my projects. Like, that's not a massive threshold or filter, but it's one that can get you so much closer to your ideal client. Another one for me, which I was speaking to Mike Telich from Telich Custom Homes, and he was like, why don't you just tell people that you're not going to competitively bid jobs anymore? And this was probably 7 years ago, 5 years ago. And that just blew my mind, where it didn't make any sense. How would I even do that? And when I started to wrap my head around that and be like, you know what, I'm not going to do that. As soon as I held myself accountable, and during my lead intake, one of the first things that I discuss with people is that if you're looking to competitively bid this job, we're going to pass on it. Like, yeah, a lot of customers ghosted me, but like, it immediately set me on the path of where I wanted to be. So that's my advice for you guys and girls over the next month, is to find some sort of hurdle or filter that you can put into your marketing or into your lead gen or intake process that's going to be steering your ship in the direction of where you want to be. Big or small, it doesn't matter. Implement that, hold yourself accountable, and see where that takes you.
2 things. Number 1, shout out to Mike Telich, because dude's savage. And I've had some very long conversations about my business and his business, and he is just like straight.
He's a maniac.
Yeah, straight maniac, in all the best ways. Secondly, but that idea of adding this whole filter of like, hey, if you're looking to competitively bid, we're not interested anymore. I would argue that sure, you're going to get a lot of people like falling off right then and there, but there's going to be a percentage of people that are like, oh, wait, no, I really want to work with you. I didn't realize that this is the wrong way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
And because we've had that where it's like, no, I thought I'm supposed to competitively bid. It's like, no, you should talk to a couple different builders and figure out who's a good fit for you, but we're not going to do this competitive bid situation. And we've had success in communicating that, and ultimately they're saying, no, I want to work with you. I'm what I'm worried about is, can I afford you? And ultimately I'm like, hey, let's have a longer conversation about affordability here so we can figure that out.
It's just crazy when you create, like, we're so afraid and apprehensive to put any sort of filter in place with our business, even though we're dying to get to where we want to be. Like, we're so afraid, right? It's the same thing as like, hey, I want to make my life better in this way. I'm going to write a note and I'm going to put it in my wallet because that's what makes it real, right? And I think that we're so afraid to hold ourselves accountable, where start small, like add one small little benchmark to your business that you want to stand behind, that you want to be accountable to, and do that in the next 4 weeks, and just see the way that shapes your business, your marketing, your conversation, how that builds confidence in your systems, and where that takes you 8, 10, 12 weeks down the road, because it's going to change things for you. And it is very scary, regardless of how small it is, because you think that you're going to be turning away clients. But if you want to get towards where you want to be, you have to do things like that. So do that, see it, audit it, see what it looks like, see where it takes you, see how it changes your processes and what it does for your marketing and your lead gen and the type of jobs that you're doing. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a massive change.
No, like experiment. I mean, I've done this a dozen different ways, and on the website we had this really robust like questionnaire, and we just found that no one was filling it out. So we simplified it to get people in, but then the problem with that was that we didn't have anything set up after. So everything came in, we had to manually vet. So now we're building it where it's like super simple to get into our funnel, and then you're immediately followed up with an automated email that will then essentially self-qualify you as to whether or not this is a good fit. And by doing that, you're putting things in place that, create that resistance. I think when you were saying that, I was thinking about, like, I'm not a big club guy, but you get to a club and there's a cover charge. It's like, well, maybe it's cool in there. Like, if they're charging $40 a head, it must be pretty cool. I got to get in there. You create that resistance, you create that desire to work, and it's the same thing with the clients. Like, hey, we don't competitively bid. Oh, well, I want to work with you, so walk me through how that works. And then it gives you the opportunity to really explain your process, because you've basically put up a wall and said, nope, you can't go any further. And, those that are still interested are going to say, well, explain to me your process, because maybe I don't want to competitively bid. I just don't know enough yet.
Correct. And like, you have the clients that just don't want to, right? They want to competitively bid something. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. That just doesn't work for me as a business owner.
Yeah.
And if your business does work fine on that, again, there's nothing wrong with that. I just struggle with that from a time perspective. Time, I can get everything back in this world. I can recover financially. Like, I can't regain time. No. That none of us can. So it's just one of those resources that I've realized for myself. It's my most valuable resource, and I need to preserve that. And being a small business, like, I make my money through efficiencies, through systems, through preserving my time. I have a limited amount of hours that I can capture and charge for in a year. If I'm not capturing and charging for every single one of those hours, I'm losing a lot of money. And when clients understand that and clients value that, they have no issue. My clients, they have no issue understanding why I don't want to competitively bid things. And it's putting us on the same wavelength from the get-go, which is really nice. So find what works for you. Find some of those thresholds and benchmarks, like Nick said, that create some resistance. Like, resistance is a very good thing. You're fearful of it. It can be scary, but it's one of the best things that you can do for your business. You should not be meeting every single potential lead and client's needs. If you are, you're doing something wrong.
Amen to that.
Amen. What about the dog?
What about him? Puck.
Got another dog?
Puck.
You don't have any dogs right now?
No, we do.
Like just that one?
No, we have Stella.
Oh yeah.
The dog.
One of my other friends, Aaron, just got a dog, and I'm confusing that. So I was like, do you still have any dogs left? He's like, no.
We had Penny and Gus. Penny died. Gus stuck around, and then we got Stella, and then Gus died. And I was like, all right, let's just chill with one dog. And Meg, I mean, my entire Instagram For You page is dogs at this point because all Meg sends me is dogs.
Yeah.
And finally, I started giving in. I was like, all right, I kind of like this one. She's like, no, that one's too much energy. Or I was like, I need a stoic dog. Like that's the dog. That's the type of guy I am. Like, I need a stoic dog. And so I kept sharing back and forth. And I was like, I got to a point where I was sending like kind of ridiculous dogs, like the
one you got,
monster dogs. And this dog, his name was Sky, which is this dog that she found online. She goes, "What about this one?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just not feeling it." And she goes, "Well, it's a puppy. It's only 3 months old. It will probably grow up." I'm like, "I know. I don't know." And then this past Saturday, she's like, we had hockey. I'm like, what do you want to do? She goes, well, I want to go up to Salem. I'm like, what's in Salem? She goes, the animal shelter. I'm like, why do you need to go today? She goes, well, that dog Sky is coming in today. I was like, why don't we go together after? And she goes, no, because if you don't go when they arrive, there's like a line because people like are interested because they post them online and people get interested and show up in like the big mass adoption all at once. I was like, had no idea. I'm like, okay. She goes, you really don't want him? I'm like, I don't want a puppy. I feel like I have so much on my plate right now. I can't think about this. And we kept having a conversation and I made a comment like, an aggravated or an annoyed husband would. I'm like, you're just going to do what you want anyway. She goes, Nick, I would never do that. I'm like, you're going to go up there and just adopt. She goes, Nick, I'm not going to do that. She goes there, takes Indy, sends me videos and photos. I'm like, yeah, he's cool. Like, he's pretty cute. And she goes, Jackie adopted him, her sister.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no way. I'm like, Reed's bummed. And Reed does not like animals. Like, he's not an animal guy. He's never once touched the cat or the dog. and she was like, what? I'm like, yeah, apparently Reed really liked him. She goes, I was close, but Winnie, her sister's daughter, really wanted him, so they adopted him. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And she goes, yeah, I said that we could watch him in the when they go away in a couple weeks. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, she's lying to me.
Yeah.
So then she sends me a video of inside the car of our current dog Stella being weird.
Yeah.
And there's no other sign of a dog in the car. And I'm like, huh. I'm like, maybe she's hiding it. Like, is she playing into this? I'm like, whatever. So I'm sitting on the couch with the kids and they hear Meg come in. They walk around the corner and immediately, like, I can see on their face, like there was obviously a dog walking to our house. And I get up and, the dude's cute. Like, it's it's an awesome looking dog. And she's like, oh, you didn't want him? I'm like, just because I'm not, like, I understand, like, he's awesome. He's cute. Yeah. He's a good dog. Like, we had him a couple days now. He's great. I just wouldn't have gotten a dog right now.
Yeah.
And she goes, we can return him. I'm like, imagine the monster I'd be if I was like, go bring him back.
Yeah. No thanks.
And like my kids.
So she just made all the stuff up about her sister.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
She's tapped,
That's a big decision.
Not for her. Like,
I mean, not even like just.
I mean, when she got
commitment.
Stella, she was like, hey, we're going to go down. I'm grabbing Marley and we're going to drive down to Rhode Island and adopt this dog tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Oh, and I mean, she's just like, she's always had dogs.
It's funny. All of your dogs, I don't know how you keep finding these like wired hair human. Like, every dog that you get, I feel like is a human disguised as a dog. Like if you were to get a dog that was supposed to be realistic and play one on TV, but it was really a human, that would be your dog.
Meg said something the other day about how there's like a big issue with these doodles.
Yeah.
Because they're so smart. Like the whole idea of like when you're reincarnated, you become something else. That like someone told her it was like these doodles are basically like supposed to be humans, but it's like they live one more life as a dog. I don't necessarily believe in this, but my point is like, you know, it is weird how some of them are so human-like.
Yeah.
But look at this.
Like Gus.
Gus, yeah. I said that. I was like, oh, like Gus? She goes, I don't know. He was pretty stupid. I was like, yeah, but he was pretty human
just
looking.
Looked like he was human.
But look at this photo. But now she's trying to figure out, like, she did the whole dog DNA thing. Yeah, like...
It's so funny looking.
Like two
He's
different
cute.
color eyes.
Yeah.
He is cute.
How big will he get? Do you know yet?
I don't know, but his paws are fucking massive.
Yeah.
And so he's
I
like...
guess you'll find out what type of dog he is.
She's like, I think it has a Siberian Husky in it. And it was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
It's because of the eyes.
Maybe. And like just but it's weird. He has like a coat, like his hair. He doesn't shed that bad. Like he sheds a little bit, but not that bad. Not as bad as Gus did. But his coat is all like one length, but except for like 10% of the hair sticks up through. So it's like he has a really thick coat and then like this like weird like
wire hair
that sticks
wonder
like
if he'll lose that
3/4 of an inch past his normal hair. I'm like, it's so funny looking.
Yeah.
Like it looks like he had a bad hair, like has a bad haircut.
That's funny. No, he is cute.
So yeah.
Well,
We got another
welcome to
dog.
the family.
All right, guys. Make sure you head over to make sure you sign up for our newsletter. I'm being serious. I know we promote this every week, but a couple things. Number one, we share the show notes. I share an email every Monday or Tuesday just about what we're talking about in more depth, sharing behind the scenes. We also share a lot of the templates, the forms, the things that we are actually using in business. Things like lead, when we're developing lead flow, when we're developing a process. All of that is shared, but you have to be on the newsletter. We're not sharing it on social. We actually tried that. We want to keep social free content for you guys. So if you want if you want access to the more tactical things that you can implement into your business immediately, head over to moderncraftsman.co and sign up for the newsletter. It's the best way to do it. And also, we're going to be in Las Vegas. I mean, not Las Vegas, Orlando. Worse. Sorry.
I could see you going to Las Vegas, though. You're like, wait.
I should double check my flight.
Yeah.
We're going to be in Orlando for the International Builder Show, February 16th, 6 to 9 p.m. We're going to be hosting an event. So if you guys are interested in joining us, head over to contractorcoalitionsummit.com. We're going to be with that crew, and you do need to register for that event. There's no ticket sales at the door. You have to pre-register. But the best part about registering is all your food and drink is free. So you're basically paying for that and coming to hang out with a couple hundred of us.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a past attendee, right? So if
all.
it's just something you're interested in, you want to hang with the group of people, or you've been interested in what it's all about, definitely grab a ticket, stop out. I know most people are getting into the show the day before anyway, so if you're looking for something to do that night, check it out.